Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons of Rock'em Sock'em hockey for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. And this is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week, talk all things hockey, and we're going to talk a little bit about Rock'em Sock'em hockey, Tom, because the Rangers, it looks like they've hired Gerard Gallant, and I don't think they brought him in necessarily for his toughness, but he was a tough player.
Yep.
He is an old school coach, and I think one of his mandates is to, and I don't think they're going to bring a bunch of tough guys in, and I'll have you speak to that, but I think he's going to try to get them to understand that you have to sort of stand up for yourselves. And it's about team toughness, and it's about chemistry and having everyone's back on your team. So give me your take on the hiring of Gerard Gallant.
Well, first of all, I guess Chris Drury must watch our show, and that's how he made the decision to hire Gerard Gallant. So I think that's pretty obvious.
It was fairly well established on our program that you were a Gerard Gallant.
Yes. There's no mistake in that. No mistake about that.
There really was. I mean, we know certain things. We know you're not a huge fan of Duchesne and Matt Duchesne and Nashville, and we know that you like Gerard Gallant as a coach. So
that's right. And we're questionable on Eichel and Johansson as well. So we'll have to talk about Eichel too. I guess things are heating up with him. So obviously, I think it's a great move to hire him. And you're right. I think more than anything, his style of play is to initiate, right? If you look at the incidents that, a lot of stuff that happens to the Rangers this past season, the Matt Martin hit on Trouba, the Tom Wilson antics with Panarin, that was all, they let the other team initiate things. And if you then retaliate against that first hit, punch, whatever it is, hit, now you're more likely to take penalties. You're trying to play catch up. If you're initiating the physical play, the aggressive play, that's the way Gerard Gallant is going to want them to play. And they can do that. They've got the guys. Trouba is a physical player. Lidstrom's a true physical player. They've got some young defensemen coming up. They're supposedly very physical. So, to me, obviously, I'm very excited about it. And again, the big thing to me is, and Larry Brooks wrote an interesting article yesterday, I think it was, talking about how there's kind of a disconnect between Quinn and the star players, particularly Panarin and Zibanejad, and that they think that Gallant is very good at that. And he quoted Jaromir Jagr a lot, talking how well he liked Gerard Gallant and how well he thinks he's going to coach there in New York. So, yes, I think all around, for the young players to give them confidence to go out and know that they're going to make mistakes, and that's fine. They're going to continue to play. If you're not working hard, that's a different story. And that the star players know that they can go do their thing too. The game has changed a lot from back when I played, where the Herb Brooks of the world really came in with a lot of discipline. They still have to have discipline and structure, but you got to give those star players the room to go do their thing out there too. So obviously, I think it's a fantastic signing.
Yeah, several years ago, I did a book with Art Regner called "What It Means to Be a Red Wing," and Steve Yzerman ended up doing the foreword for us. And he wrote about his relationship with Gerard Gallant. And, Steve Yzerman, despite the fact that he was a flamboyant player when he first came in the league, is really kind of soft-spoken. He's not very flamboyant in his speech. He even admits he wasn't a guy that, was a win-one for the Gipper type rah-rah orator in the dressing room. But when he was talking about Gerard Gallant, he basically said that no one helped him more in his career than Gerard Gallant. Huh? And, while Steve Yzerman was riding for the Pony Express in the early 1980s, it was Gerard Gallant riding shotgun and taking care of him. Not only could he serve Yzerman as a 30-goal scorer, which he was for 4 consecutive seasons, but he amassed 200 and some penalties every year, looking after him. And I think it even went beyond that. They were roommates. And I think Gerard kind of schooled him on the kind of the ways of the world and how it all worked. And I was really struck by Yzerman, who, has had just an incredible career. Everything he's touched has been golden, and he's worked at it too. He didn't expect to become a GM as soon as he retired as a player. He apprenticed, I would call it, for the Red Wings, and he learned about everything about management before he struck out on his own. But what he said about Gallant was the one regret he had in his career is that he and Gallant were not together when the Red Wings won that cup in 1997. And I thought that was a remarkable tribute to because, Yzerman was obviously thrilled. He waited a long time. He came to the Red Wings in 83, Yzerman did, and it wasn't until 97 when he won. So I think when a guy like Yzerman, who's not free with his praise, he's just a guy that's guarded and when he speaks, but he was effusive in his recognition of what a strong character person Gerard Gallant is.
Yeah. Well, our roving reporter here, Susan Brooks, has come up with a little scoop for us. Saw a report that Dan Girardi might be part of the Rangers coaching staff. No one played with more heart and intensity. Wow, very interesting.
Yeah, wow. Dan was a Tortorella creation too, if you recall.
Yeah.
He really thrived under Tortorella, and as a lot of players do. I think it's always a misconception that players don't like playing for Tortorella. Some players struggle, but when you look at the players who have struggled, they're guys who struggle for a lot of coaches. They just don't live up to expectations. So, that would be interesting. Girardi would.
I guess my only concern is, has he been coaching? I mean, to go right into
because there is an art to being an assistant coach.
Yeah.
Good cop. You got to be the good cop. You got to know how to play that role.
Right. Yeah. You got to have the head coach come in and be the hard guy, right? And then you sit down with that player and say, okay, here's what he's after here. Here's what he wants from you. Yeah. Interesting. But it's based on the way he played, man, you're getting the all gritty team behind the bench. If that's right. You start going in that direction, which is fine. Yeah. That's what the team needs.
It's funny, but the assistant coach is almost like the interpreter too.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Like the guy goes and he explains what he wants, but the player is all confused because his head's spinning. And as you said eloquently to me yesterday, when a guy's just trying to hang on and stay with the team, that's all he can focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's just hanging on. So
I didn't realize he coached in Buffalo last year. Huh.
Well, I didn't realize that either. Huh? But a lot going on in the Tampa Bay. All's right in the world. They looked like Tampa Bay yesterday.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, I love the way the Islanders are playing. I hate to say it, being a Ranger land here, but I don't know if Tampa plays their game the way they played last night. I just don't know that the Islanders have enough to beat them, right?
Yeah. Well, and it sometimes, rarely in the NHL does it come down to talent. But when you have a team playing as hard as the Islanders are, and a team playing as hard as the Tampa Bay Lightning are, then it does come down to talent. The Islanders don't have as many guys who can push through that tight defensive stalemate, and get through as Tampa Bay does. So
hey, going back to Rangers really quick, somebody brings up a really good point here. Sort of bounce around on here, but do you think Gallant can get Kreider to play to his potential? That's a great question to me, because I'm a huge fan of Chris Kreider's, but I can see the frustration from fans, especially because he shows you sometimes that he can just do everything. He can fight, he can hit, he can score goals, he can pass. He's a great team leader, works hard, he's professional, all that. But there's other times you wonder, like, come on, Chris, let's get it going here. Pick it up a little bit. So, and I can see where Gallant, that's going to be a problem for him, right? Because he can see that potential and he doesn't see it all the time. So they may be butting heads a little bit, and that'll be interesting to see what happens. But
aren't we into a old dog, new tricks scenario though?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been such a long time. How old is Kreider now?
It's got to be 27, 28, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, he's older than that.
Is he that old?
Yeah, he's got to be. Look him up. Look him up.
Yeah, I will.
He's got to be.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, when he first started, I remember some games he played against Washington where he was going head to head with Ovechkin, and playing like him, like physical player, hitting and getting in his face all the time, and he just hasn't.
Well, he still skates. He's still got the big shot.
He's great. He's great in front of the net.
But it seems to me that all goal scorers are streaky. When do you remember, other than Lemieux and Gretzky, when do you remember a goal scorer that got a goal every third game? You know,
yeah,
they usually go 8 games without goal, and then they get one or more for 11 consecutive games. So
he is 30 years old. Kreider is 30. Yeah, you're right. Jeez, I thought didn't know he was that old, man.
So I don't know. I mean, and sometimes a coach just has to accept who the guy is. Like, he's still valuable, even though he may not have reached what we would all consider his potential.
Yeah.
So, I mean, though, you got to balance now in today's world, especially in a flat cap world. Is it worth his salary? So,
yeah, you're right. I guess to point, what would you get for him right now to a 30-year-old? Geez, if I'm a coach that thinks I can get the most out of him, maybe you go after him, but that'd be a risky one. Let me ask you, Dougie Hamilton. I read today where the Hurricanes gave his agent permission to shop him around and see what they can get before he becomes a free agent. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that situation, it depends on the spin you put on it.
Yeah.
Like, you can put the spin on it that look, they're just not going to pay him. Right. And he should go out there and do his thing, and we'll try to get a draft pick in case the team wants to just sign him early. Or you can say, well, he wants to stay in Carolina, but Carolina thinks that he's overvaluing what the market is, because this is a flat cap world where nobody wants to give 7 and 8 year deals, and they don't want to pay $8 million to anybody on an extended contract.
Right.
There's too many guys around the league. Look, Parisi, Johansson, Skinner, Duchesne.
Yeah.
And there's so many guys out there that have these longer term contracts, and people, I think, are greatly reluctant to do that. So is Carolina sending them out there and say, hey, look, we treat you well here. We like you to play the way you want to play. We're not asking you to change. This is the best situation you've had. If you leave now, you're going to be on your 4th team in 4 years. So go out and see what the market is. And if it turns out you're right, come back to us and we'll see if we can match.
Yeah, because he's saying publicly that he wants to stay there. Now, maybe that's just the right comment.
Well, he should want to stay there. Like, it hasn't gone well for him in Calgary and in Boston.
Yeah.
And now he's with his 3rd team. He's found a nice place there. I think there's less pressure on him. And I think for the first time, I think Brind'Amour accepts him for the player he is.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This is what we got.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me get this straight. So they say to him, okay, go shop around and see what you can get.
Right.
So I'm just trying to think, if I'm another team though, let me say, why am I going to trade a draft pick for you when, like, if I know I can make a deal with you? Now, the difference is for the player, if he stays in Carolina, he can sign an 8-year contract. If he hits the free agent market, he can only sign a 7-year contract. That's the max. So is that 1 year? And if I'm another team, why do I guess it's that you trade for him. Now you know got him.
You just want to get it done. So before he changes his mind, before it becomes whatever the date is now when they're free.
Right.
And so then everybody can start to line it up. And, the Maple Leafs don't get who they want. So on the first day of free agency. So now they say, well, let's revisit, Hamilton.
Right.
So you do that. Yeah. So I think there is an advantage to being a team that if you could get them signed prior to.
Yeah, you do a sign and trade, right? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you could get that.
That hasn't been much of a thing in the NHL. I know in other sports they do that, but the NHL
I mean, you end up getting, for a negotiating right, sometimes you get a 3rd or a 4th round pick. That's what we've seen.
Yeah. But remember, like in Philly, they got in trouble. Fletcher got himself in trouble with Hayes there, right, where he traded him for him without having him sign him. And then Hayes was in control pretty much. Well, he already gave up something to get me. I can still walk and go sign someplace else, right? So,
right. But a lot of rumors floating around about the Sabres. Sam Reinhart, apparently that's heating up. A lot of teams are interested in Sam Reinhart. And they're interested in him as a center, which has got to make Sam Reinhart happy, because I think he wasn't thrilled to have to play the wing in Buffalo. So, one of the rumors I heard yesterday, which is fascinating, is that the Sabres have said, if you want Eichel, we need to get a top 10 pick this year. So that, basically then opens up the door for, Seattle, Anaheim, Columbus, all of whom obviously need a center. all of them wouldn't mind having a long-term star signed to a deal, and all of them have a top 10 pick.
So is it just a top 10 pick or another player?
No, it would be a package with that.
Right. I guess it's going to happen. It seems like, as I read today, it's heating up the talks. They say Eichel's going to get moved. But man, if I'm Buffalo, I'm going, okay. We talked about this the other day. I gave up Ryan O'Reilly, who goes to St. Louis, wins the cup, captain, their leader, and now we're going to give up Eichel, which is supposed to be the future of our franchise. So,
well, I mean, I'll say the same thing I said when all that stuff was coming down. I thought it was nuts to trade Riley.
Yeah.
And I think this is crazy. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, maybe it's just unrepairable. Maybe Eichel's just saying to him, "Listen, I'm not coming back. You got to trade me." Yeah.
But they don't have any leverage. Do you think Jack Eichel's not going to want to play in the NHL?
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's not going to just sit out. But
yeah, I mean, you tell him, come back, get yourself organized, play well, and we'll see what we can do. That's what you say.
See, that's where, and again, we beat the drum on this one too. That's okay. If you bring in Jimmy Rutherford, let's say Jimmy Rutherford is an experienced man. He's won cups. He's been successful. He sits Eichel down and said, "Listen, let's repair this. I don't want to lose you. You're so valuable here. Let's repair this relationship." Don't you think that's possible?
I do. Yeah, and what a sign that would be. Not only to, I mean, imagine how this looks to the fan base. Like, I keep harping on this, but I'm really disappointed in this for the fans of Buffalo, who I just really appreciate. The fan base there and how passionate they are. I've done stories about them, and they've got that history of the Super Bowl losses and the Brett Hull's foot in the crease and all that stuff. I just feel bad for them, and I love Buffalo, the people there. And I just it's been a decade since they've been in the playoffs, and now they got Jack Eichel, they have Sam Reinhart, they got a big premier defenseman in Rasmus Dahlin. Rasmus Ristolainen's a pretty good big defenseman as well. They got Dylan Cousins, who looks like he's ready to take a role. Maybe Middlestat will work out, maybe won't. But there's some optimism there. Now all of a sudden, we're blowing it up yet again.
Yeah,
Reinhart's going, Eichel's going, Ristolainen's getting out. And I said this yesterday, on a different show, but it still goes true. If I was king of the Sabres now, I would, if you are going to try to get, trade Eichel and you got the number 2 pick, then you take another big defenseman, and then you got Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin, and maybe you get Erlandson, or take someone else there, and then you'd have to sell that. And I get 2 brand new goalies. I completely changed the goaltending, and I said, okay, this is where we're going from here. But I think it's so distressing on the Buffalo fan base. Imagine a decade. Imagine what's happened in your personal lifetime over a decade.
Yeah,
if they haven't been in the playoffs, and you're a hockey fan of Buffalo.
Yeah,
a decade.
Yeah. And they are diehard hockey fans too. They come in from Southern Ontario and everything too. Sabres fans, that is tough. All right, so top 10 pick. So the top 10 picks then, Buffalo's number 1, Seattle's 2, Anaheim, New Jersey, Columbus, Detroit, San Jose, Los Angeles, Vancouver, and number 10 is Ottawa. So, but why do those teams want to get? I mean, you're going to have to give up a lot to get him, right?
Well, let's look at this from the logic of it. Columbus has had difficulty re-signing players.
Right.
So now they got a chance to get a superstar, and you would argue, but tied up for multiple years. They don't have to worry about him, and now they move on. Anaheim, they've wasted Gibson. They've wasted Gibson because they can't score goals. And now they got a chance to get a premium center. So I could see why they would be interested. Detroit, Larkin and Eichel are buddies.
That's right.
Yeah. So and right now the Red Wings don't have a number 2 center, but Larkin may be even better suited for a 2 than a 1. So Eichel comes in and he's 1. Now Larkin is 2. Now Joe Veleno goes down to 3. Maybe Rasmussen plays on the wing, or Veleno plays on the wing. So they got a lot of options there. Now you're bringing in Seider, so you got defense, so it makes sense from them. Ottawa's got a great collection of young players.
Yeah.
And now you bring him in, another premium player. You've already got Americans on that team.
Right.
So
you're saying a team then that is I hate to say it this way, a non-Stanley Cup contender right now. So let's say those 10 teams are non-Stanley Cup contenders. They're not there yet.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, that's why they're big where they are.
Do you think, are you adding Eichel to the lineup too early, or do you think that he's still in that developmental stage?
I mean, that's the argument that has to be had in the boardroom with because that is a question. Since I just live in Detroit area, let me just address that. Let's look at that. It would change the Red Wings' perspective. Yzerman's been saying 3 more years, but suddenly if you've got Eichel leading the way, and Seider's coming in this year, maybe it's 2 years now instead of 3. And,
and he is, what was he, 25, Eichel? 24, 25?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So interesting. I guess I would look at those 10 teams. Vancouver made the playoffs 2 years ago, missing this year. Are they closer than everybody else, or was that just an aberration that they made the playoffs? I mean,
they've got a lot of the parts now. You look at that team, like they've got a young goalie in Demko. They've got Quinn Hughes on defense, an American.
Yep.
I don't know why I think that's a big deal, but you watch the World Juniors and they talk about rivalry between Canada and the U.S. and it's real. I mean, these kids have all grown up. Like, these are the top players. Like, they all know each other. They've played in the same era, and they sort of identify. So, I think you need sort of a little niche, for Eichel to have his American buddies that. So. But
then if I'm Buffalo, so Vancouver's get the 9th overall pick. So I get a 9th. I draft Eichel 2nd overall. Now I'm getting a 9th overall pick for him. I guess I'm getting another player too, but
I think you're getting a couple of players. But I mean, I don't know what the package would be. I haven't. So
I don't know. That's just one of those deals. I'm with you. That's one of those deals that's just going to hurt Buffalo no matter what. Right?
You never get full value.
Yeah.
When you trade an established player.
Yeah. You're starting all over. It just gives them that feeling of no credibility in the organization, right? I mean, and that's, we feel bad, like, we talk about the GM there, whatever, Adams.
Yeah.
Seems like a really good guy, but he's not there yet. He doesn't have that experience yet, doesn't have that credibility yet. So whatever trade he makes, people are going to go, oh God, he got fleeced, right?
Well, and the thing about it is that what bothers me is the whole Sam Reinhart thing. Okay. Not only are we going to lose Eichel, because if you lose Eichel, now you to me, you then sell the idea of, okay, Reinhart moves to number 1 center, Dylan Cousins, maybe he's ready now. And it's probably early, but let's just say he moves into that number 2 center. You got Middlestat that's challenging, who's older, who has really been kind of a disappointment. But, you can at least sell the idea of there's some potential there. But if you end up trading both Reinhart and Eichel and Ristolainen, and Owen Power, I was plugging him in just, because you got to sell hope. So I would just sign him and get him in the lineup. He played at the World Championships. He didn't look, he wasn't dominant, but he wasn't out of place either. And now he says he wants to stay a year at Michigan. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Eichel is 24 years old. So, wow. Sad day for Buffalo if that happens. Yeah. If they trade both those guys, Reinhart and Eichel, wow.
Yeah.
Starting all over.
Yeah. Well, for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you, does Montreal have any chance against Vegas?
Well, I don't think people have given them enough credit for.
Yeah.
We keep saying what happened to the Oilers, what happened to the Maple Leafs, but what happened to them were the Canadiens.
Yeah.
So I do think they have a chance, but Vancouver is playing strong, and this is what we have to admire about the Vegas Golden Knights is they have gone from expansion team to one of the most desirable teams in the NHL in terms of playing for them. Like they want a player, they can get them. You know, they want it, like they said early, and you hear players now say all the time, well, if I could play in Vegas.
The whole environment, the way that the entertainment package in the arena, you know, the fact that it's Vegas, the team is so good, and they're like a fun team to watch too. They're that big, physical, fast team, right? You know, my new idol is Marc-Andre Fleury too. Like the way he's handled this whole thing with Leonard coming in, the way it's appeared he was treated, you know, they were shopping around, they're not shopping around, and he didn't miss a beat. He just came in and played. I'm sure there's some choice words said behind the scenes probably, but as far as the public and the way he plays in net and the way as a teammate, he's been fantastic.
That's what I said. Like people say, well, what's Vegas going to do? Well, I'll tell you what I would do if I was Vegas. I'd sit right back and bring back 2 goalies at $12 million.
Yeah, you're right. You said that the other day, and I was starting to think, well, they could do something. Maybe right. Yeah, just let them play it out. Because Fleury is 35 years old, right, or 36, whatever he is.
I think he's older than that. Yeah. So, but no, he's just played great, and you know, I think it really helps Fleury that, and we've spoken about this before, but you know, he went through about a 2-year period, maybe it was even 3, at least 2, where he was a terrible playoff goalie. Like he couldn't stop a baseball. And then he's pulled it together, and I think it's his temperament that serves him well, and he's great. You know, among everything else, and his ability to be composed and to stop the puck at opportune times, he's also tremendous in the dressing room. The guys just love him. You know, they love his sense of humor. And you know,
he is 36 years old too. Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, I think you just play it out and see what happens, and see how he feels about it next year, and ask him if he will sign a 1-year deal. You know, maybe you try to trade Leonard, maybe you don't. You know.
Well, you know, I guess I did criticize that move when they signed Leonard, saying, "Why are you doing that? You get Marc-Andre Fleury." But you look at it now. I mean, goalies get hurt too, so who knows? One of them gets hurt, they get the other guy there, and you do have a contending team. That window for winning with Vegas is right now, so you need to have the goaltending. And you're right, Fleury's got 1 more year left in his contract. He's 36 years old, so at some point he's going to have to retire. So I guess looking back at it, maybe it was a pretty smart move to sign Leonard.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard. I think people don't want to give Kelly McCrimmon credit because I think they didn't enjoy their McCrimmon experience last summer when he was kind of running around trying to trade Fleury and move Nathan Schmidt. And I think there were a couple of teams that thought they had a deal in place that, you know, it was just sort of a breakdown in communication.
But I'll tell you, that's hard. When the player knows that he's being shopped around, right? He signed there. He comes there as the franchise guy and made a big deal about it when they had the expansion draft. There's Marc-Andre Fleury. He's the spokesperson for the team. Everybody loves him. And now he's being shopped around, right? And he really didn't do anything wrong. He played fine, took the team to the finals. But again, credit to Fleury for handling it the right way. But yeah, you're right.
Well, one thing I wanted to say about Vegas too is, how about their defensive core now?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got some big boys on that defense. They've got some guys that play tough. They've got Peter Angelo, who's seen everything, done everything. They got
do everything.
Theodore, who I think is learning from Peter Angelo as well. And it's too bad they can't keep Martinez. I don't think they have the money. Right. Who knows? Maybe they could figure it out, but I don't think they have the cap space in order to make that work. But
and as much as I was a Gerard Gallant fan, Pete DeBoer is doing a great job there coaching too.
Tremendous job. It just looks like they went from one good coach to another. And,
totally.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the important thing that we've got to cover before we end the show here. Did your lovely wife get to look at my shrimp pizza?
You know, I haven't been able to speak to her about it. But my wife is actually in Chicago.
Oh.
My son is selling a home, and he needed her help there. And so she has driven to Chicago. So she's, I think they're kind of redoing a floor and so she's probably involved in that, and she's also watching the kids, so that you can do that. So I haven't seen her in a couple of 3 days, and I won't see her even through the weekend because
maybe I'll direct message her. I'll get a hold of her.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Yeah. I'm going to have to get a recipe for the cauliflower pizza dough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you will have to wring it out, but I think that's right up your alley.
Okay, perfect.
You want to get that moisture out of it. I've seen her do it. It's really kind of fascinating. So,
excellent.
But getting back to the NHL, where I don't think cauliflower pizza is a real big thing.
No.
I just can't imagine that guy.
Yeah, certainly wasn't back when we played. Somebody said you want some cauliflower pizza when I played. Are you kidding me? Oh, man.
What was the give me your off day for you. Okay. Off day. Well, let's do both days. Okay. So off day, what's your breakfast back when you were playing?
We didn't know too much about a diet. I don't even know if we had breakfast. We'd get up and go to practice, and then it was more lunch. It was because we practice usually at 10:30.
When you go to lunch, and then there was always beer involved. So
yes.
How many beers at lunch?
Well, depends. We didn't play for a few days. Well, it didn't really matter. It was there was at least, man. If we sat around, it was kind of like. It was like part of the team bonding thing for the guys to sit together. And typically you didn't just sit there for like 15, 20 minutes to have one beer. It was several hours. It was 3 or 4 hours.
Lunch would leak into dinner, wouldn't it?
Yes. Well, because we practice at 10:30, usually done, let's say 12:30, you shower up, you hang out in the rink a little bit. So you're off to the lunch together about 1 o'clock. And you really haven't got anything else.
Burgers and a beer, or is that
burgers, beer? Yep. Well, again, we did not know too much about diet, so it was burgers, beer. I remember like the French fries with the gravy on it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and plus you're burning calories so it's all the time. You don't realize what you do with food. You just eat food because you need to have some nourishment. Eat whatever. Pizza, especially if we didn't eat right away and we had a couple of beers, to just throw in whatever you can grab. So, yes. Yeah. It is fun. Now,
was there any point in your career when, on an off day, you would just stay home and watch TV?
No. It was, and for me especially, I kind of became. I remember who it was. I think it was Larry Melnick actually when he first got traded to the Rangers. Came up to me one day. He says, "Tom, where are we going?" Everybody told me I'm supposed to hang out with you. That had become. I know it sounds strange thinking about it. That had become part of my role as a team player, as an assistant captain.
You were the social director.
Yeah. I remember when I got to LA, Bruce McNall, the owner of the team, after games sometimes, he'd hand me like $1,000 in cash. He said, "Tommy, take the guys out for beers."
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was that had become part of my role. And that was the thing when I retired and got in the agent business. I was starting representing players. So these kids are calling me at night and everything. And I still was in that same mode where I was drinking beer all the time. I just done that for so many years. And I started realizing, man, I've been drinking beer every day for the last, 10, 15 years. And that's when in age business, I quit drinking for 5 years. I didn't intentionally say I was going to stop. I just kind of lounged like, wow, this is not good. Again, when you're wrapped up in the whole hockey world, that's just part of what it is. But then you get in the business world and you're living the normal life. You're thinking to yourself, that's just not what's supposed to be happening.
Now, did you have the chicken and pasta for your game day meal? I mean,
I was a big pasta guy. We just went with the, what do they call it? The Irish pasta, where it's just the butter and cheese on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we still weren't great with our diet either. They had ice cream for us with chocolate sauce on it and all that kinds of stuff. But it was, So day of a game, again, typically we didn't have any breakfast, went to the pregame skate, came back, had that meal, and then maybe something quick like a bagel or something like that before we went to the game. But that was,
Then after the game, though, you'd go have a steak or something.
Well, it didn't get away the beer. We did, yes.
Well, no, you always had beer, but
yeah, it is, man. It is funny. I'm thinking like on the bus, in the locker room, we had beer. I remember when Herbie Brooks came in, he started taking the beer away. I think it was the beer in the locker room. We were outraged. Like, how could he take the beer away from the locker room?
Well, it's so different now because I've told this story before, but I had a player tell me, and he told me off the record, so I won't say who it was, but he said, if you want to eat a hamburger in this league now, you basically got to do it alone, because guys will just give you grief. Just the way they. And can you imagine that? People.
I remember two guys. I think it was Kelly Miller and Mike Ridley came to the Rangers. Great guys, good players and everything like that. We had this place we went to, Warren and Gretzky's all the time in the city. And the guys would go there after the game. We'd all sit around and have a few beers. Again, it was almost like a mandatory thing. Guys would you stop in, even if you just want to get going after that, or else you stay for a while. And we'd sit down and eat. And they ordered a glass of milk after the game. And we were like outraged at them. Like we were like, that's embarrassing. Order a beer. What is wrong? It was just, we were really outraged that these guys would dare order a glass of milk at a bar after a game. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. And there were some guys that didn't drink. You know, Bernie Nichols was a big partier, but he didn't drink. And Eddie Olczyk.
I think Robbie Fatorik didn't drink either. Yeah, he was really disciplined. Yeah,
I can remember that. And Mike Gardner, did Mike Gardner?
Yep. I don't think he did either. That's right. He was very religious.
So there were guys around the league that simply didn't drink. But you know, and then there were guys that were into fitness. Like Rod Brindamore was the first player that I remembered that was a weight room junkie. Like he was always working out, lifting weights. That wasn't as big a deal as it is now.
Robbie Fatorik was really like that too, and totally disciplined. Like you used to joke around, like for him to have an M&M or something like that, that would be a big breakthrough back then. Like he would stretch all the time and everything. We're like, what? It's so funny looking back at our reaction to guys that were doing the right thing there.
Bernie was telling me that that he never thought anything about conditioning until he got to Chicago, and Chelios got him into Chelios. You know, they got him into doing push-ups in the sauna and riding a stationary bike in the sauna, sweating off your pounds and all that kind of stuff. And he said he never really had given it any thought.
It was, and the whole drinking the beer, I'm thinking like in LA in particular, we had an older veteran team, right? Larry Robinson, Wayne Gretzky there. I'll never forget those two guys in particular. They would always be with the guys, they're drinking beers with everybody. But come practice the next day, they were having a blast. They're laughing and joking around, but working hard. Nobody outworked them, because they had, I think it was partly showing, we drank our beers the night before, but we're, the old Herbie Brooks thing, you're trying to fly with the Eagles at night, you got wall with the pigs in the morning. And they'd go even harder after they'd had a few beers.
That attitude was prevalent, I think, in all sports. One of my all-time favorite stories that you hear about in Detroit was the famed Bobby Lane, the great Lions quarterback, and his best friend on the team was the running back on the team, Tom Tracy. And apparently they went out and howled at the moon till all hours of the night, drinking mass quantities of beer. And then practice the next day, Lane called Tracy's number like 10 consecutive plays to run the ball hard in the line. And back then, you practice full out, tackling and so forth in pads. And they get back to the huddle, and he said, "Hey, Bobby," Tommy says, "I was with you last night. We were out to 4:00. You know that." And Bobby looked at him and said, "Tom, when you want to dance, you got to pay the band."
That's good. I like that. Yeah.
And, just kept calling his number. So
that's funny. That's a good story. I like that.
Yeah. But anyway, well, we've probably gone a little long today talking about the good old days in the NHL, but we appreciate you tuning in. If you want to catch my writing, I'm at hockeybuzz.com. I write a column 5 days a week, and I also, of course, cover the Red Wings for Detroit Hockey Now. I do that with Bob Duff, and that's DetroitHockeyNow.com. And I have a story pretty much every day in that as well.
You're a busy man. And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Again, that's radio.co at 365 Sports. We'll see you guys next week.